April 2024 came to an end as well, and Sword Art Online Integral Factor continues to remain in a slump. A developer update on the upcoming Fractured Daydream had my curiosity piqued. Variant Showdown shared a lightweight gameplay update, and the new and final Last Recollection DLC delivered numbers only about half of the previous one. Welcome SAO survivors to Dead Game Report for April 2024, featuring Integral Factor, Last Recollection, Variant Showdown, and Fractured Daydream. And this video is brought to you by my t-shirts and hoodies on Teespring. Link to my store in the description, where we have Lens Squad shorts, Angry Medina hoodies, even the poster of our first day project, so go ahead and check them out in the description. Alright, we had 4 games to cover and I'll try to keep them short. Integral Factor. The slump that started in February has continued throughout April as well. However, the way I've been putting things into words has led to some inaccurate assumptions, and as the person presenting the data, that responsibility falls onto me. For that I apologize, and I want to quickly clarify myself. Let's be real, I don't expect every single viewer to have watched every single Dead Game Report back to back, so when background context builds on prior months, they can naturally get lost. So when talking about a slump these past 3 months, I'm basing that statement on 2 things. One was the significant upwards trend Integral Factor had with its 6th anniversary period, the loss of which was sad to see. And secondly, the yearly average of the previous year, as well as the year-over-year monthly comparisons to account for seasonality, both being important in conjunction with each other. In February, March, and April of 2024, Integral Factor yielded 53 million yen in each month of revenue in Japan on iOS, and if you look at the previous year's average, 2023 average monthly revenue stood around 61 million yen. That's roughly a 10% decline and can generally be explained by seasonality. However, I stated it was not even an issue for February, as historically, February revenue was always lower and last year was around the same level as well. The only standouts here were the non-recovery in March as well as in April. And while February is something to be improved upon if you ask me, as an historical outlier, something is clearly going wrong in February, it's not significant in terms of the big picture here. So when it comes to the slump I keep highlighting, we're not looking at anything particularly alarming, but rather just the usual yearly decay of the game, which is quite minimal compared to others like Memory Defrag or Unleashed Blading that came before and went away. But I'm also of the opinion that a yearly decay should not be taken as a natural occurrence that you can do nothing about. And in these videos I basically try to highlight significant pain points that are clear to see that if improved upon can turn the tides and bring that upwards momentum back that we had back in 6th anniversary. A game like Integral Factor deserves that in my opinion. Of course, I cannot have that entire explanation every single month, so I need to find a better way to elaborate on the context of the numbers, but for this month, this suffices. So let's go back to our monthly performance. As I covered earlier, April 2024 also saw no improvement in numbers, ranking around 398th on average throughout the month with a revenue of 53 million yen. It also featured no new main story in Integral Factor, though it still had the April Fool's event story, so that remark specifically about no new floor story is mainly going to affect May's performance in this case. But then again, the April Fool's story that arrived on April 1st in Japan, that was really good in my opinion. Integral Factor always has a banger prepared for April Fools. Sadly, it did not result in an improvement alongside the beautiful April Fool's banner featuring Kirito, Shinon, Sanya, and Koharu. You can see the popularity peak on April 2nd, just shy of rank 300, and quickly dive back down to almost 500. The following weekly reset did not stop that dive at all, as the scene remained completely barren aside from an event story rerun. And the reason for how barren it was is because everyone was basically waiting for Alice and Yu-Gi-Oh birthdays, and the devs really, they gave the players no good reason to do anything else until then. It's clear that the weekly reset on 3rd of April desperately needed a new banner here. But yeah, you can see the jump with Alice's birthday on the 9th and Yu-Gi-Oh's on the 10th, skyrocketing the game above rank 300, which did not happen a single time in March, mind you, that is good. And it was quite a high point in April as well. It also benefited from the weekly reset on the 10th right after, bringing in a new hunting event to farm that was particularly a good fit for the Yu-Gi-Oh skills based on weakness elements. And I think that's a good point where I reference last month's Dead Game report and say how much of a difference a popular character birthday banner makes here compared to less popular characters like we had Agil and Philia last month. I really think less popular character birthdays can be utilized in other better ways to draw people back into the game, like, you know, free skills via dungeons, rather than the unique banners. Well, the banners themselves can be utilized for other new skills with more popular characters here and there. It's fine to have a banner feature less popular characters alongside the popular ones, but when those less popular characters get dedicated banners during birthdays, naturally, it does hamper the performance of the game, especially if the skill effects don't end up being exciting for players either. The reality is, you can't have a less popular character with bad skill effects. Anyways, going back to the monthly performance, that week was quite front-loaded or even loaded from the previous week thanks to the Yu-Gi-Oh! And Alice birthdays, so dipping around the 13th and onwards was normal. We rose up above rank 300 again on the 16th with the very cool looking Shadow Master Order featuring Kirito, Asuna, Shinon and Lisbeth, and the popularity remained above rank 400 for quite a while thanks to the guild ranking during that period, I imagine, along with multiple other event rerun / update editions, and of course Lifa's birthday reinvigorating the scene on the 19th before the numbers went down again shortly after. And the next weekly reset did not help. For the first time in a long while, we received a new banner that only featured 2 characters, aside from birthday banners of course. Charmthrope Order featured Argo and Yuki only, alongside the Underworld Boss Rush event, both of which remained quite ineffective. As you can see, it's the little bump on the 25th that immediately goes back down. Hype was back shortly after on the 27/28th with the Integral Factor livestream of course, followed up by some free gems, a 2 4-star guaranteed grab bag with high drop rates, and that followed by the fishing ranking and the Last Recollection collab banner featuring Stacia Asuna, Solus Shinon, Terraria Lifa, Igni Elizabeth, Aria Shilika and Gladia Yuki at the very end of the month, or rather at the beginning of May 1st in Japan, so it does not factor into April at the very least. All in all, that's a weak result in 3 back-to-back months for Integral Factor. And again, it's just below average, that's very much within seasonal variance, nothing to be alarmed about, but in my eyes, clearly something needs to be done before this becomes the new average. That's how you stop the decay, before things actually decay and create a new lower standard. At the time of writing, good start to the month of May, but I really only have 2 days of data, which is also just following the Goddess banner release, obviously creating an outlier data here. Don't take it seriously, we need more entries, and I usually have more data to talk about in a given month due to me procrastinating and not publishing that game report until midway into a month, and I'm being timely for once. Anyways, that's a wrap on Integral Factor. Let's quickly have a look at Last Recollection, nothing to say really. The second part of the Ritual of Bonds DLC had a minimal effect that you cannot even recognize from the usual daily variants if you zoom out of the data a bit. At least on Steam it looks quite very bleak. Back in March we had the free Minato Ako update that brought the concurrent player count to over 100 players. The DLC 2 release here in April only managed the top concurrent count of 57. And well, I just published my DLC 2 review that will tell you exactly why, and that's all I'll say on Last Recollection. It is the end of the life cycle of this game, and from here on, we'll be looking towards Fractured Daydream. And speaking of Fractured Daydream, I'll keep this one very brief as well. We had a developer update for SAOFD that shared the changes they are making in response to the closed beta feedback. Some nice stuff there, like leaning more into class roles, a lot of camera and AI improvements, matchmaking changes, dodge cancelling and the like. It was overall a good update. I have a full-on coverage of all the changes alongside my opinions in a separate video. You can click on the icon on the top right to go check it out if you're interested for all the details. Last but not least, Variant Showdown. It was a full-on developer update this time around with proper communication, but I found the contents of it to be quite weak. Takeuchi P gave us a closer look into some little gameplay changes, but I felt like it was too detail-oriented that could have been much better conveyed in video form while actually showcasing the gameplay changes than in text form here. It just felt too stale and too specific with too many words for these small things. In my opinion, an update on upcoming planned gameplay modes, multiplayer wink wink, or talking to us a little bit more about the story release plans and the like could be more beneficial on this front. Considering gameplay modes are a big topic that the PR side would want to keep as a hype reveal for a trailer or something, I think it'd be good to have a talk about the story next time instead. Anyways, late April we received a developer update which mainly talked about gameplay speed. First up, talking about the updated basic functions. The changes here are, I believe, the switch, where they mentioned each character's switch skill can be activated on a timely switch. I'm a bit confused due to the wording here and not actually showing how it specifically functions in video form, but in the earlier version, timely switch only granted the additional benefit of not receiving damage. It seems like now it'll also grant you a double attack of sorts on that switch action from both characters involved. At least that's what I understood when I read it. Secondly, timely step or timely dodge will grant you a short increase of crit rate. I don't know if that was already a thing in the old build, but I never knew, so I'll imagine it's new. And I think it's a good choice here. Back in the old version, the only reason to use dodge was because your switch was on cooldown. Now there's a benefit to dodge itself too, so it can be more of an active choice depending on your circumstances. And the third point, it seems like they are decoupling awakening and finishers, which probably explains the additional bar underneath the HP bar in last month's previews. Finishing gauge allows you to use finishers, aptly named, while the awakening gauge allows you to go into awakening mode to boost your character stats. Now, more specifically how some of these affect the gameplay, a change into awakening mode is that it will remove the time decay on your combo counter, and as you know, the higher the combo, the higher multiplier you get for your damage. So as long as you are awakened, your combo won't be going down even if you're not hitting your enemy. And also, since awakening and finisher have been decoupled from each other, you can now use finisher moves in normal combat as well. Takeuchi P mentions that higher combos will give you an ultra powerful attack, but based on the wording, I'm not sure if it's just talking about the usual combo multiplier being higher than usual, or an actual separate super finisher of some sort that is not made clear in the text. A nerf to the awakening function though, or at least a consideration for now. With these changes, they are currently planning on removing the spam skills endlessly aspect of awakening mode and solely focusing on buffing your characters. I don't have a particular issue with this, but I just want to say that the skill spam during awakening was quite the energy rush in the original game. That spike of excitement is something they should really consider to maintain one way or another. But I'm very well aware that this was a problematic balancing choice already, so I do understand where they're coming from with this consideration. Then there's the entire section on dodge and switch, but I don't actually see any new information here. Takeuchi P at least highlighted the invincibility frame of a dodge move, so that's probably valuable information for the average player. I just wish it was less vaguely worded. I imagine most people try to dodge out of a danger zone, jumping backwards, not realizing they were actually invincible during a well-timed dodge, so they could indeed dodge forwards towards the enemy. But that pretty much covers the Variant Showdown April update as well, and brings this entire video to a wrap. Thank you very much for watching the Sword Online Dead Game Report, and I will see you all in the next one with May data and news. Until then, stay cool.